Pedro, he's the one that interrupted the class
You didn't interrupt.
to answer. All right, and we are now live. Okay.
That's the
thing. You're the assistant instructor, so I will. Yeah. Oh, coffee's here. Go for coffee. Can you do me a favor? Can I go to the kitchen and get the creamers?
Creamers?
Thank you. Go for coffee. But he just had the throat spurt right now.
But just came, that's how my son was.
It was like this, and all of a sudden it's like this, and like, oh boy.
You're probably gonna have another one too.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
You can ask me a question until you have your name tag, because I don't know your name, man. The rules are the rules. Tiffany is like, really? Jessica, by the way, I cannot see your.
I have two on.
Okay. One is the non-official one. That's the official. All right, cool. So, okay, what's your question?
I was watching the
Mhm.
class. You were talking about how you couldn't raise rents on commercial units, like if they were 5 units and up, like 5
No, I didn't say you couldn't raise rents. What I mentioned is there's different rent controls for different purposes. So in certain townships, 1 to 4 families, they're rent controlled at one level. 5 units or more could be controlled at different levels.
Okay.
So there could be different rates for rent control.
Because I know that in Elizabeth they have rent control at a certain percentage, but I thought it like if you make like capital improvement, like for example, you change the whole bathroom in one of the units, then you can raise it up to like your rent.
New construction, yes. All right, new construction only. Ask him if he went to get cups.
I saw somewhere.
Studio.
I don't think he did.
Not that I know. I mean, I have a real. You might have some. You want to get
No cups. All right, so yeah, what I was saying is for commercial, one of the things that says about rent control is that in commercial, in new construction, you're free of those restrictions because you might not be able to get financing if you are restricted. So while you have the initial mortgage, you don't have rent control. If you refinance or if you sell the building, that's it. It's no longer considered a new structure or a new loan, so you are limited to current rent controls. And again, each town has their own regulations, 1 to 4, 5 or more, if it's commercial, if it's not. Most towns with commercial, they really don't care. Residential is where they really focus on. Okay. No? How do you feel about running up and down the stairs?
I think I should pay more.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
You're gonna have coffee now. 1, 2.
I mean, if it's not a big deal if you can't get it.
So, can you go to McDonald's?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
McDonald's like right there.
Huh? Get McDonald's cups? Just the cups, not the coffee.
How many?
Well, there's 8 people, but there's always people coming late, so 12. Boom.
Yeah, she's so sweet. You gonna go?
You're going?
Yeah, watch
You both
the
going?
What? You can watch the ball. No, I'm just kidding.
It's not like you're bringing coffee, it's cups.
Just a
Yeah,
cup.
it's cups.
Well, then she's going for support.
Yeah.
Becca, security.
She might come out. He's gonna have school early.
Yeah.
All right. Mortgages.
Daniel, money's okay?
It's free.
Here.
Where?
It should McDonald's.
Yeah, well, free to.
What, you have to get inside?
I don't think you're gonna,
You don't need money for cups.
just in case.
They charge you. Because then she's
I
gonna
mean,
have to
1
go up
cup
and
is
down
one thing.
again.
Asking for 12 cups,
Yeah.
This is America.
Most now is minimum, yeah, $5 each.
there's a song about that.
Yeah,
Recent
I
song.
was also thinking about that song.
Yeah, we were saying. All right, so mortgages.
You need a marker, instructor?
No, you
nothing
can-
like that.
All right. Instructor.
All right, we have one viewer, so great. Hi, viewer. People usually don't
Maybe a
announce
viewer?
themselves.
Maybe a viewer?
All right, here's the thing. I usually like to start this chapter talking about what a mortgage is. So I separate this into two different words. So we have mort and we have gage. Anybody speaks Latin here? No? Latin-based language? Okay, there's a few more people. The word mortgage means mort and gage. What does the word mort mean?
Mogati.
Say what?
Say what?
Mort. What does it mean?
To buy.
Louder?
To die?
Oh.
To die. Actually means death.
Yeah, Mogati. You said basics. I
Death.
took a little bit of French.
Ah. And she was asking if somebody spoke French and you're like, really?
I prefer
Death.
Italian.
Great. Yeah. Death. The word gauge, guys, the word gauge means what? When you engage in something, what are you trying to do?
Interact.
Sorry?
Interact.
Interact, okay. What about is you're trying to engage into, get into a race or a commitment or anything like that, right?
Compete.
Compete, okay. With competition, there is, and then?
Prizes.
That was death. Prizes, there you go. No, that's not it. All right.
Competition.
All right, so let me try to
Game.
figure out this in a different way. Mhm. Usually I like to talk about the word engaging because you're committing to something, right? When you engage, once you start, you commit. Does that make sense? There's another word to commit, which is pledging to do something. Committing to something or pledging to do something. Okay? It's fine.
Because I remember now what it is.
You remember it is. So I was just trying to figure out, because when you engage in something, like it's there, but until you actually take the action to go there, it's just there. So you have to commit or try to do something. So you have to pledge to do whatever you're going to do. So the word gauge actually means pledge. Or since we're talking about French, right? It's pledge or grip. Okay? So the word gauge could mean two things, pledge or grip. Now the best way I can explain this is that the death that we're talking about is not your death, is the death of the loan. You got it? And until the loan dies, you have pledged your property, so your house. So it's very simple. When you buy a house, right? This is your house right here. When you buy a house, you pledge the house to the bank in exchange for the money. You guys got it? So pretty much you're saying, hey, Bank of America, could I get a loan? They say yes, if you give us a collateral. What is a collateral? Whatever you give to them of equal value. So Bank of America, here's my house in exchange for the loan. Now Bank of America, pay attention, Bank of America now holds the property and has a grip on the property. Okay? The property that you pledged, they have a grip on it until the loan dies. Once the loan dies, we're going to talk about this in the whole chapter. Once the loan dies, you have to release the grip. And Bank of America can no longer claim that property. You guys got it? So, to make it simple, where most people get confused is like, how can I pledge something that's not mine? The thing is, your loan is only effective from the moment you take over. Does that make sense? So you're pledging your property before it's even your property. Meaning you're giving up your property before it's even your property. You guys got it? Mm-hmm. Okay, so the bank has a pledge. You pledge the property, and they have a grip on it until the loan dies. So pretty much, your loan is $300,000, and over 30 years, you pay in installments. Eventually, the balance reaches 0. Once you reach this point, this is called maturity, which we're going to talk about in a second. Sorry. Maturity. It's Friday. It's called maturity. Once the loan matures, that means you've paid it off. You got it? Once it reaches maturity, the bank has to release that grip on the house you pledged, so no longer a mortgage because the loan died. You guys got it? Questions so far? No. So here's the thing. Another thing I want you guys to write, if you guys have not written anything yet, make sure you write this. Another thing I want you guys to write is that there's 2 documents, and I'm going to show you those 2 documents in a second. But if you can, take notes here. Your notebook is heavy to carry.
You want some paper?
You want some paper?
No, I read everything.
But today's there's going to be a lot to write. So
I have to.
You have
Okay.
notes on the back all the way in the book.
that's what I was going to say. At the end of the book, there's a section just with notes. So blank pages in case you need. No, I'm just saying because there's going to be possibly math calculations as well, and you need to have the room for it instead of crowding that page. Okay. You said ooh because it's math. I don't know if you like this kind of math.
Can I get a paper for math?
Here, you want?
There you go.
You got a pencil?
Oh, no, I forgot about it. Instead of the highlighter.
No. Oh, you got pencils right
All right. Where were we? Ready?
Yep.
Okay. So the other thing I want you to go for is there are 2 documents that go with the mortgage. Did they charge you?
If it was for me, I'll pay and just let's go. But she got the talk and she said,
there.
I work across the street. And the guy was like, at the gym? I was like, yeah, at the gym. And they gave it for free. Yep. Just say you work in the gym and you'll pay.
That's what I would have done. They were charging for the cups?
They're going to.
How much?
I don't know.
Who's
They
gonna
just,
calculate in his head? Good job.
I prefer your calculations, thank you. All right, so mortgage, something to remember. There's 2 documents when it comes to buying a house. There's the note, or what we call promissory note, because it's a promise to pay. Right, promissory note. And the note, as I said, is the promise to pay. It's kind of like the IOU, which means I got a loan. Okay, so equals money. The other one is the mortgage itself, which is the collateral, right? Which is the security for the loan. Which equals house. Okay.
Okay.
So every time you see the word mortgage, you have to remember a couple things. It's the collateral or security for the loan, right? What is the collateral security for the loan? It's the house. So you see mortgage, it represents the house. A lot of people think that the mortgage is the payments. No. Mortgage is the house. The payments are based on the promissory note. Okay? The promissory note, the IOU, the loan, money. So 2 documents with every purchase of a house, every financed purchase of a house. You guys got it?
Mm-hmm.
Questions? So mortgage means house. Note means money. Good? Make sure you write that down before I move forward. Good? All right. So back to this. Good? Here we have exactly what I just said, which is the mortgage is a pledge, as I said, of real property that serves as a security or collateral for a loan, and two documents are involved. We have the note, or in some areas a similar document known as bonds, and this is the financing instrument signed by the borrower who states, I promise to repay the money you have just lent me at the following rate and terms. It is the note that makes the borrower personally liable for the entire amount borrowed, even if the property goes down in value. In green it says, the note, please highlight, underline, put stars. The note creates the personal obligation, and the mortgage creates the lien. So again, two documents. Note or promise to pay is an IOU, meaning I owe you money, right? The mortgage creates the lien because it's against the property. You guys remember liens are financial claims, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Number two, the mortgage itself is a security instrument signed by the borrower, which states, if I don't keep my promise to repay you as agreed, you may foreclose. What is foreclosure? To have the property sold at a public auction and use the proceeds to pay the debt. So every time you have an unpaid lien, what can they do? Foreclose. That means they force the house to be sold. Whatever monies come from that sale or the auction
Goes to the bank.
goes to the bank to pay off the debt. Very good. Now, confusing you guys a little bit, just a little bit. It is the borrower who signs the mortgage, who does the mortgaging. It is incorrect to say to a buyer, we will find you a bank to give you a mortgage. Because the bank does not give the mortgage. Who gives the house as collateral?
The buyer.
The buyer, right? So what the bank gives is a loan. Make sure you highlight, underline, put stars. The bank gives a loan or money. And in return, it takes a mortgage or holds a mortgage.
Same thing for cars.
Yeah. That's it. So, the mortgagor is the owner of the property. In other words, the mortgagor is the borrower who can pledge the property as security to the lender, who is the mortgagee. Remember that when you see the OR, it refers to the owner of the property. So OR is short for owner,
That's good.
right?
When it comes to mortgages, because I know leasee and leaseor is
The
the
marker-
opposite, right?
The marker no refers to what?
It's not?
Nope, I'm going to show you right now. Not the opposite. On the
Well, I
contrary.
mean with the OR and the EE.
No, I'm going to show you. So, you guys going to write this? All right. So, in one side, sure, thank you. In one side, you have a column that says gives up the property or receives money. Thank you. Did you bring the coffee ones or the soup bowls?
It's fun.
That's the small cup.
You know what I'm saying?
No, that's not there.
Why can't we just appreciate the color?
I did. I appreciate it. I said thank you. I just did.
It's a soup bowl.
Spoon? Okay. So in one column we have give up the property and receives money. In the other column we have receives the property, gives up money. Ready? On the left we have grantor, lessor, mortgagor.
I like more the mortgagee.
I forgot what I was going to do. All right. On the right we have grantee,
Nancy,
lessee,
mortgagee.
mortgagee. All right. So here's what I want you guys to pay attention to. If you see on this side, grantor, lessor, mortgagor, right? Think about it this way. Grantor is a seller. If you guys want to write somewhere there, grantor is a seller. Doesn't the seller give up his property for the grantee, the buyer, to purchase it? Right? The next one is, what does the grantee give up? Money. And who receives that money?
Grantor.
The grantor, the seller. Got it? What about lessor and lessee? That means there's a lease. The lessor then is the landlord. Doesn't the landlord give up the property to the lessee, the tenant, who receives the property? And what does the tenant do? They give up money every month to who? To the owner. You guys got it? So it's a vicious cycle. One gives up property, the other gives up money. And look what happens in the last one. Mortgagor, mortgagee. The mortgagor is the borrower who's about to be the owner. They give up the property because they pledge it, right, as security for a loan, right? They give up the property to the mortgagee, the lender. And the lender gives up what? The loan, the money. And who receives that loan or the money?
The owner.
The mortgagor, the owner, to pay the grantor. You guys got it? So OR always means owner of the property.
OR means receives money.
OR receives money, but gives up property. So that's why I created this table, to be an easier way to understand. OR gives up property, but receives money. The E receives the property, but gives up money. Okay? Let's think about assignor, assignee. Isn't that the same concept? I have the rights to the property, but what did I just do? Assign to somebody else. So I'm the assignor, and they receive the property, they're the assignee. You guys remember this? Say yes? No, say yes, even if you don't get it. Say yes?
Yes.
Thank you.
So it's like I don't get it.
You didn't get it?
Yeah, judge. The one that receives the property is the one that always
I'm
pays.
joking, I got this.
The one who receives the property is always the one that pays. The one that.
Correct. Or the one that steals, depends on your point of view.
Yeah.
Very good.
And the one that
Car
gives
dealer.
up the house is the what again?
That's as common in everything, car dealer. Say it again?
What?
Got it.
The
Yeah,
grantor?
just got it.
The grantor?
What about
What again? He's the seller?
grantor is the one that gives up the.
The seller. Yeah, the seller.
Yep.
Where's the E? What about the E? Grantee, EE, lender.
Bless you.
No?
Aren't they both up there?
Yeah, but tenant doesn't have two E's. And buyer doesn't have two E's.
Oh, you can have one for home. Okay.
We call him a buyee
Bye.
or a tenant. Whatever works. But I understand what you're saying, because lender has two E's. Lender. That's what the book used to say. What's that?
That's a terrible example.
No, but that's what you're saying.
Just focus on the letters.
Not confusing that much.
Next. Weird words of the day. Hypothecation.
Hypothesis?
No.
Oh.
I mean, it's possible. Hypothecation. Hypothecation is the term used to describe pledging of property as security for payment of a loan, please underline, double underline, triple underline, without surrendering possession of the property. So, in the past, most loans came with, okay, Kevin, you come to me and say, hey, Bruno, I need money, right? And I say, okay, I'll give you liquid, cash, right? So cash. But what do you have to give in exchange? Because I'm not just going to give you cash, right? What do you have in exchange? He's going to say, I plant, I know, not that. What were you going to say?
Come on.
You have a house, for instance, or a car, or a cell phone, or a remote, something of value. Gold, right? So in the past, that's how it was. Today we have pawn shops because only that do that because banks now have a different system. They use your credit worthiness. If you don't have credit nowadays, it doesn't matter what you have as collateral, they still don't lend to you. Okay? But back in the day, that's what it was. So you would give me your asset, whatever you have as collateral, security, and I would say, okay, this is worth $500, I'll give you $200. Right? Because it's high risk for me. I'm going to have to hold on to this while the money is in your hands. So I'll give you $200 at 10%. And you have to pay me back, right? You have to pay me back those 200s plus 10%. Once you do that, then I'll release it back to you. That's a regular loan. Today, like I said, we have a credit system. You have good credit, you get a loan. Now, when it comes to cars or houses, what do? They give you the car and the house while you're paying the loan. That is called hypothecation. So you get a loan right here. You get a loan and the security is the car or the security is the house. Because the loan is based on that collateral, that security. Good so far?
Yeah.
But day one, they allow you to use the security and keep the security in your possession. That's why it's called hypothecation. Because you're pledging property, meaning you're giving up the property, you're still getting the loan, but you don't have to surrender possession of the property. You get to drive the car, you get to live in their house, you get to do whatever. If you don't pay, what do? They foreclose on your house or they repo your car. You guys got it? So, two different types of loans. A loan where you get to, the bank or the lender gets to keep the collateral. And this type of loan, hypothecated loan, is where you, the borrower,
Lose your property.
keep the property while you're paying.
And then you lose it.
If you
If
stop
you don't
paying.
pay.
Yeah.
Okay, good? Hypothecation? Yes?
Yes.
Questions?
Isn't it like the same thing when you lease a car, you have the preference as either to change it if the following year comes in the car?
A lease is not financing. A lease is not financing. It's
When
a
you
similar,
buy-
it's a
yeah,
similar
yeah.
idea,
When you buy a
but you're
car,
renting.
yeah.
Here it's financing.
So it's like getting a car and put a loan on it.
You get okay, so you either pay for the car cash or you get a loan.
Yeah. So
The question is, you've heard of layaways?
Mhm.
What is a layaway?
After you pay, you keep the thing.
You pay on it and then you get
You
it.
pay on it, then you get it.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay. Hypothecation, they're saying, here's the car, here's the money, pay us back whenever.
Ah,
Okay? Does that make sense?
they don't use that. I wish it was like that.
It is like that. Do you have a car?
For other things.
Oh, for other things. But do you have a car? Car dealer? You have a car. The day you bought the car, did you buy it all cash?
So that you have to pay back.
to somebody else. Did anybody get a loan for their car?
It's paid for, I don't know.
Did anybody get a loan for their car?
I'll raise my
In the
hand.
past, yeah.
In the past? Okay.
Yeah, in the past I had loans, yeah. And better cars.
At the dealer, you sign off on the loan. And they said, here's the keys. Okay. You did not pay for that car yet, but they still allowed you to drive. So you got the property, you didn't surrender the property. You got the property and the loan. If you stop paying on the loan, they come and get the property.
Yeah, no,
That's what it
I
is.
get it.
Okay.
That's it.
Anybody else? Good. Trust deeds. I want you to write similar to mortgages. Similar to mortgages.
Isn't that trust?
Trust deeds. Nope, nope, nope,
There's
nope.
another
Move forward,
word
move
for
forward, move forward.
that. There's another word for that too, right?
Nope. Totally different. We haven't mentioned this yet.
Okay.
So, trust deeds. Similar to mortgages. What is a mortgage? It's pledging your property. A trust deed is similar. The biggest difference between these two is that in case of default, the lender with a trust deed can gain possession of the property more promptly and more simply than the lender who forecloses on the mortgage. What we're trying to say here is some states are non-judicial. What does that mean? That if you stop paying on your house, they can go straight to auction. They don't have to go to court. New Jersey is judicial, so we have mortgages. And that's the document we take to court in front of a judge, and it could last a year, 2 years, 3 years before you actually get an auction of your property. So it could take 3, 4 years, 5 years, whatever, for you to lose your home from the moment you stop paying till the moment they auction. Does that make sense? Trust deeds, no, they bypass the whole court system. So you stop paying today, 3 months later, 4 months later, you could have lost your home already. It goes straight to auction, to what's called a trustee sale versus sheriff sale here. You guys got it?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very similar as a mortgage. The difference is we don't go to court. So the lender can get their property back way faster. Questions?
No.
Great. Provisions of the note or bond. What is a note or bond? Who can tell me? Go.
Well, oh, sorry.
Instructor Pedro is going to answer that one.
Sorry. I
I'm gonna
was
just read off the book though.
You're going to go for a bowl of coffee?
bowl. Who said a bowl of coffee? I appreciate it.
I do appreciate it too. It just doesn't matter.
That was
It's
a power,
okay.
thank you.
I have the $20.
I felt it. It was genuine.
But now, excuse me, you appreciated a bowl of coffee, but you don't appreciate the creamer?
Sorry.
Anyway. Things we do, seriously. Next week there'll be, I'll buy this weekend more creamers.
Like bonding with somebody?
I'm bringing the creamer next week.
All right. Is it a special creamer?
Maybe.
All right, 'cause we got cocaine, we got cannabis. Might as well,
Ice cream.
just saying. Guys at home, I'm joking. We don't have that stuff here in the class.
Till next week.
Till next week.
Illegal. Your son is lost.
Okay.
Oh, he's cannabis cabinet.
Oh.
And he waved.
And I have, anyways.
Sorry. He's like happy about his neighbor. He's embracing.
And we have also cocaine in the class. It's not in this class. She's in the morning class, but sometimes comes to the night class to wake up everybody. So,
He has the whey proteins that is for something else.
We got the car dealer,
The car dealer.
Yeah, we got everything.
got a cousin.
Now she has a creamer's.
That's it?
I'm Sue.
Ellis Donuts.
Creamer Tiffany doesn't sound that well. No. Nah. All right, provisions of note or bond. What is a note or bond? You said money, and you said you were going to say instructor Peter. A financial instrument, very good. But I said before for you guys to write something down, which is
How do you do that?
money, and before that was
IOU loan.
promissory note, an IOU
Oh,
or the loan. Yes, now I'm just giving you all these terms. So if it says provisions of the note or bond, that means that this document includes all the terms of the loan, the money you receive. Does that make sense? Not only that, it also states here that every party that's part of the transaction must do what? Sign all necessary documents. Very good. Provisions of the mortgage document. What is the mortgage?
House.
House, the collateral, the security, correct? So in this document, what do you think we're going to have written down? The description of the house. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
Also the rights of the tenant,
The rights of the tenant,
not the tenant.
tenant.
The lender.
The lender.
Pay the rent.
It's a very good question, actually, because yes, in the mortgage, you have the duties of the mortgagor, therefore the rights of the mortgagee. You guys got it? What do you think the duties of a mortgagor are? Well, it's simple. If you borrow money, you have to pay, right? If you have real estate, then you have to pay also real estate taxes. Don't really rise in real estate taxes. And you have to maintain or pay, a little bit more paying, right? Adequate insurance, right? Homeowners insurance, just in case. Now, these are common sense, these three, aren't they? Yes?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Thank you. These are common sense.
Now the mortgagee.
Now let's go to these ones. Right on top. Obtaining the lender's authorization before making any major alterations on the property. Did you guys realize what I just said? You cannot finish that basement
I do that.
or expand your house or major alterations that require permits. Yeah, too late. You weren't in the class, right? Any major alterations that require permits, you cannot do them without getting authorization from your lender. Don't worry, you're not the only one.
Yeah, I see
Yeah, I do
people
that.
who authorize, change their whole house and they make it expanded. And do they have to have a first construction permit for that? Second, the lender permission.
The reason why the lender wants the permission is because you want to make sure you got the building permit. I'll explain better in a second why. The next one is you have to maintain your property in good repairs at all times.
Yeah, common sense.
Common sense, right? Why?
You want the house to look good in case you
Why?
wanted to sell it for the future.
Okay? So it needs to look good in case you need to sell. Why does it need to look good in case you need to sell? Because if it doesn't look good, it's worth,
Nothing, and you have to spend money out of your
well,
pocket.
not nothing, but less.
And you have to
It's
spend
always
money
worth
out of your
something.
pocket to fix something.
Correct. So if you're thinking that way, right, that was perfect. If you're thinking that way, right, then the reason why we maintain the property is to keep the value, right? The reason why we obtain the lender's authorization is because they want to make sure that you're going through the proper medium. So you have your building permit, your licensed plumber, your licensed electrician, the general contractor, and all the moving parts legally done. Okay? Because in case you guys decide to, has anybody ever watched HGTV? Like Flip This House and stuff like that? That's A&E, but,
Yeah.
right? Property Brothers, all those,
I watched that one with the Asian lady and her husband. What's their name? I forgot.
the Asian lady.
With
I
the
know what
white-
you're talking about. They're down south somewhere too.
I know, Joanne.
Yeah.
Yeah, Asian lady. Just,
Not
she
yet.
has her eyes like that, she's Asian. She's very American.
Yeah,
Hey.
she's American.
Anyway, great show, yes.
Yeah, I like that one.
I love that show. But
Joanna, right?
Yes,
Okay.
Joanna Gaines.
Yeah, I just
Very
remember, I
Asian.
just remember.
Very Asian name.
I just
All right.
remember her husband, not her.
So, what I was trying to say is, you see these shows, right? And they teach you how to do certain things. Yes? Katie? Correct? So they teach you how to do certain things. So you're a pro, you know how to do plumbing. You're a pro, you know how to do electrical work, right? And you go and you finish the whole house doing that, correct?
Mm.
What if you did something wrong, and now all of a sudden there's a fire or a flood because of your amazing HGTV or YouTube skills? I'm serious. What if something happens like
That
that?
only works for makeup people.
The insurance company might not cover it.
Say louder.
The insurance company might not cover it.
The insurance company might not cover the damage. And that's why we see some houses out here that are burned and they stay burned for years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years. Right? The reason being is somebody did the work, not somebody licensed. You got it?
Because if it's somebody licensed, the mortgage can actually request the money from that person.
Correct, because they have a bond or insurance. Correct. And because you got a CO, certificate of occupancy, right? If anything goes wrong, the town is also liable for what they said. Got it? That's the reason why we get permits. And again, let me ask you something. If that property that's burned down, it's been 5 years, right? If that property is not fixed, how much is it worth? Well, something. It's always worth something.
Yeah, the land,
But not the same as what you borrowed. That's why the lender wants to make sure you go through the proper steps. It's not like you go to the lender and say, "Hey, Bank of America, could you please allow me to fix my house?" That's not what you're doing. But you're announcing to them, "I'm fixing my house. This is what I intend to do." And they go, "All right, just show me that you got your building permits, that you got a CO, we're good to go." Simple. That's all they want. All right? Because then it's proof that you're going to keep the value. Got it? Going back. Why do we have to pay insurance? I think I just gave you that answer. Why do we have to pay insurance? In case there's a fire, in case there's a flood. Right?
Right.
Why do we have to pay taxes? On chapter 8, we talked about this. That if you don't pay your taxes, what could happen? You know?
If you don't pay it.
Property taxes. You start to pay them.
You still lose your house.
Hold on. Instructor Bidder is about to announce the answer.
Sorry, Peggy.
The bank, like the person. that-
You have to speak a little louder.
Okay.
You call me Pops, I'm old. Go. What?
The bank can hold the house until you pay the taxes.
Actually, we're going to talk about that in a second. That's part of it. The bank can actually take over for you, make the payment for you. But no. Again, half answer. But I like the way you think. Your answer.
You could lose the property
Why?
because the taxes at the end of the year it costs more than actually.
Go back to you could lose your house. Why?
Yeah, you lose the property, you lose the house.
Why?
Because you use that property.
no property tax or lien.
There's a lien. And why?
Didn't you pay the
Emerson.
tax? Didn't you pay the tax?
Okay, we got that. We didn't pay the taxes. There's a lien. You could lose your house. Why? How? How could you lose a house?
Because the taxes are the first thing that you have to pay back. Your property
Priority.
taxes.
No. Next.
No, it's certain.
All right, so this is the end of chapter 8. If you don't pay your taxes, they can enforce that lien, right, by holding a tax sale or auction. And then either the town purchases it or an individual private investor purchases it. These are the two options. How do you lose your property? Because they give you a certain period of time to redeem the property. That's what I was trying to get at. It's not just, it's a lien, we got it, foreclosure. It's not just, we're going to lose your house. Got it, we will. But how? Because they auction, somebody buys it, and then if it's the town, you have 6 months. If it's a private investor, you got 2 years to pay me back with interest and all that stuff. So the bank is trying to make sure that you pay it back. Or that you pay right away. You got it?
Mhm.
Because if not, then me, the private investor, I'll foreclose on you, the bank, and anybody else, because taxes have, you're saying, priority. So all of you were kind of right, but let's put it all together. There was just a few pieces missing. The right of redemption. You're going to lose, but you have the right to redeem. It is a lien, so it's enforced, and you can lose your home. Right? You guys got it?
All connected.
It's all connected. And of course, if you don't pay, they'll foreclose. All right, so all this, if you guys see and realize what we just said, is to keep the lender's interest. Because they lend to you $500,000, they don't want to lose $500,000. So keep the property in proper maintenance at all times, right? Any changes you make sure it's certified work so it keeps the value as well in case of a fire. Make sure you pay insurance so that fire is covered or that flood is covered. Does that make sense? And pay your taxes so nobody can come in like me and claim your property. That's the reason, to upkeep the value of the property. You guys got it? Questions? No?
What is that 30-day thing?
The 30-day thing, it says until the mortgage has been in place for 30 days, we go to the same concept. Obtaining the lender's authorization before placing a second mortgage. Again, is to make sure that the investment that the lender made is upheld. Think about it again. We talked about recording yesterday, didn't we? Right?
Yes.
Pedro gave the answer yesterday. Why do we record stuff?
To have it on record or.
To have it on record. So they're saying is, make sure before you get a secondary mortgage, make sure it's been more than 30 days. Why? To give an opportunity to the first lender to become a first lien, to record first. Because if you get a second mortgage the next day from a local bank, what are the odds of the local bank going to record right away versus the bank that's in California? Does that make sense? So the whole idea is to establish the priority and again, keep their lien superior and valid.
Like a time period.
It's a default time period for them to be first. Look what it says next. Please underline with stars. Failure to meet these obligations, any of these obligations, can result in the borrower's default on the note. Failure to meet any of these obligations can result in the borrower's default on the note. When this happens, the mortgage usually provides for a grace period of 30 days, for example, during which the borrower can meet the obligation and cure the default. If he or she does not, the lender has the right to foreclose on the mortgage and collect on the notes. So any of those 6 obligations, if you default on any, the bank can come and take the property away from you.
Ooh. Mortgage over.
So what we just said was, most people think mortgages get foreclosed on for lack of payment. And I just told you that the lender can foreclose for any of these reasons. So if the bank finds out that somebody has a finished basement, what can the bank do? Foreclose. If the bank finds out that you don't have insurance, what can the bank do?
Foreclose.
If the bank finds out you're not maintaining your property, you disregard your property completely, what can the bank do?
Foreclose.
If the bank finds out that you're not paying your taxes, what can the bank do?
Foreclose.
Failure to meet any of these obligations. Now, here's the thing. Provisions for default. A mortgage might include an acceleration clause to assist the lender in a foreclosure. If the borrower defaults, the lender has the right to foreclose the maturity of the debt. That means to declare the entire debt due and owing immediately. You need a coffee too? What does that mean? Very simple. You borrowed $300,000 for 30 years. Okay? Your payment should have been, in a downward plan until 0. So you pay every month. How much do you pay every month? Let's say $1,500 a month. And your last payment should have been also $1,500. That means every month you're paying $1,500 till the balance reaches 0. Good so far?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Now, somewhere on year 15, what did you decide to do? Things are too complicated, lost my job or whatever it is, so I'm not going to pay the mortgage. 1 month goes by, 2 months go by, 3 months go by, and now the lender takes you to court. Because the first notice is literally just saying, hey, I think you missed last payment, so $1,500 plus $1,500 is $3,000. The second notice the month later is, hey, in case you haven't noticed, you missed 2 payments. So now it's $1,500 plus $1,500 plus $1,500 times 3, right? So that would be how much? 4,500. The third notice is, hey, we're going to court. I don't know what's going on with you, but yeah, I don't trust you anymore. I gave you a chance, right? So how much do you owe? You missed 3 months. At $1,500, what is it? $4,500 is what you missed. How much do you owe?
The balance,
The rest of the balance.
the balance of the mortgage, or on top of the balance.
80% more or less of the loan, which is $240,000. So that means maturity was over here. They just accelerated it to today. Maturity. Yep. Here's the thing. We don't trust you anymore. We gave you a chance to pay $1,500 and you just completely ignored it. We gave you a chance to pay $3,000, you completely ignored it. Gave a chance to pay $4,500 and like, we can't keep on doing this. So even if you can come up with $4,500 right now, what guarantees me that you'll pay the next one? Do you guys remember yesterday we talked in leases that as soon as the landlord accepts any payment, right, it continues a month to month, right?
Right, and part, yep.
So what the bank is doing is like, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to take you to court for the whole thing. You guys got it? Because if you default a month or two later, as we're trying to figure this out, at least we started action. You guys got it? So, you didn't get it? Oh, okay. So maturity is accelerating from 30 years to today, whatever it is. So in this case, 15 years. And what are we accelerating? The balance of the loan. So if you owed at this point $240,000, it's not your 3 months of default that we're going after, it's the balance of the loan, the whole thing. Questions?
With 2 notice, they cannot come after, so after the fourth notice, right?
60 to 90 days. According to the Federal Debt Collection Practices Act, after 60 days, they're entitled to collect. Traditionally, at the 90th day is when they start action.
So in the 90 days, they would probably be in court already.
Could be. Most of them are not. They just wait to the 4th, 5th. They really give you an opportunity because every time they go to court, it's money out.
Money out and the loss in time.
Yep.
It's just trying to see if you can put the payment down.
Yeah, so they, in good faith, give. That's the other thing too. It's like in good faith, they give you an extra month or two, and then they slam you. Like, okay, we allowed you. Come on. Does that make sense?
Want to take the chance? Okay.
You guys got it? So acceleration is you owed X amount of dollars that would have ended at X amount of years. We want it today, not later. Today. Next, other clauses. I want you to go right here at the bottom. In New Jersey mortgages, a defeasance clause. You're regretting coming to class.
Yes, I think I'll read this up so paper can go home.
Yesterday was easy. It was 20.
Could you speed this up so Pedro could go home? She says.
Wow, that was a good one. I like that one. See, now he can't speed it up because Pedro's gonna go.
Yeah, see, the thing about being online,
Let me do
Other
other
classes.
class.
yeah,
But I want to be online right now. I don't want to be here.
That's how this truck walk away?
I'm happy to be here. Let's keep going.
goodbye.
You got bored.
In the Jersey mortgages,
Hello, YouTube.
right? I hope nobody heard that. Elle doesn't want to be here. She wants to be
Oh
online.
crap! Sorry.
People of YouTube, we have an amazing class. We have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Reality TV show.
You're not getting your certificate. I'm just telling you right now.
Oh
You're
my
not even
God.
taking the exam after that one. Oh, we don't threat students, just in case you guys heard. So the defeatance clause. I want you to write defeat the bank. Nobody just laughs. I want you to write defeat the bank. Why defeat the bank? Because it says right here that once the debt is repaid, the mortgagee, the bank, the lender, has to release any claims or the grip. Release any claims or the grip on the property.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah.
There is no password.
Never here. Wait, what is this? Now you paid off the mortgage?
Yes, balance reached 0. They have to release that grip because remember, a mortgage is a death pledge or a death grip, right?
Right.
So that means they have to release the grip on your property that you pledged as security because there's no longer a loan. It's paid off. That's why I say defeat the bank.
That's the grid that you were talking about earlier.
The grip.
The grid.
Assignment of a mortgage. You guys know what an assignment is, right? Transfer of rights or duties, right? Yes?
Yes.
Great. So an assignment of a mortgage is not from us individuals. The assignment of a mortgage is the lender. So a note or bond is usually a negotiable instrument, and as such, it may be sold by the lender to a third party or assignee. So what we're saying is, we close at 12 o'clock in the afternoon with Bank of America, and by 4 o'clock your loan is sold to Chase. Have you ever heard of these scenarios?
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is, Chase is now the one collecting on you. You receive the letter, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Borrower, just want to let you know that instead of paying Bank of America, you now pay Chase because we acquired your loan.
That happened to us.
It happens every day to everybody because they're transferable, they're exchangeable, they're negotiable instruments. Okay. Now, on payment in full, and we're going to talk better about that in chapter 15. On payment in full, or satisfaction of the debt, the assignee is required to execute the satisfaction or release of the mortgage. So even though your original obligation was with Bank of America, Bank of America is the one registered in the county, the assignee, Chase, is the one that must pay to release the lien in the county. You guys got it? It's the assignee, not the assignor. In the same token, in the event of foreclosure, who forecloses on you? Chase, the assignee, not the original mortgagee. So Bank of America does not foreclose on you, Chase does. And this is where a lot of people get confused. They know they're not paying, right? But they think about those 3 months I was telling you before, the $4,500, right? And now all of a sudden Chase is suing me? Who is Chase? And they see a big amount, 200, 300, 400, and they completely ignore it. There's a lot of people that say, oh, this is not for me, must be mistaken, and just ignore it instead of taking some type of action. You guys got it?
Yeah.
And then they realize, I have no home, because Chase, who I don't know, just took it from me. You guys got it? Make sure you tell your clients that this could
Open their
happen.
mail letters. And read it.
Open and read. All right, page 186. We're talking about recording mortgages. Why do we record anything into public records?
Make a note. Put it out there.
Nobody,
Let the world know.
fraudulent.
To let the world know that we're here. To put your flag down and say, hey, I was here first. Right? Or as my son said, to let him know that it happened. Right? And it cannot be forged.
Yeah, can I-
That's what he said yesterday, right? Cool. Next. Interest rates. Usury. Have you ever heard of this word, usury?
What's what?
Usury? What did you say? Interest. Yeah, it has to do with interest, yeah. But what is it, usury?
It's like interest without a return.
Ah, no.
Why?
Without a
High
return.
rate of interest.
Thanks for reading. It's where they charge you an unreasonably high rate of interest.
High rate.
It's being used, the word says it all, used and abused by the lender. They're charging you an unreasonably high rate of interest. They know you cannot afford to pay it back. And they still lend that money to you at those terms and rates. You guys got it? So usury is literally scamming you, right? I
That's a big word.
thought you would have known the answer.
I took a law class and
You took a law class?
yeah, and usury was like prohibited in one religion or something.
Well, since you're bringing that up, there's just in, not talking about all the religions, but I can say that all religions do have some mention in their books, their religious books, about usury. In the Bible, there's over 15 references to bankruptcy and usury. You guys should search whatever your religion is. You should search finances and your religion. And it will show you all the references about it. In fact, in the Old Testament, it says that every 7 years, creditors must release their debtors. And we have something called Chapter 7, which is bankruptcy. Every 7 years, you can file for bankruptcy. It's all related. So since you brought that up, it's both in law, because law is religion.
When exactly can we talk about?
And
And also
I think
the
it's
tie.
like 7 years, what's the time duration?
I'm sorry, say it again. Bankruptcy?
Yeah,
Every 7 years, if it's Chapter 7, Chapter 13 could be filed every year.
so when you're like, what, your race for 7 years, you can file, or what happens for 7 years, like you file for bankruptcy?
Well, for 7 years, you accrue debt, you fall into the same scam, and then you go like, please release me. That's
And
what it
they
is.
just give you money?
They don't
No,
give you money.
they don't give you
have
money.
to pay anybody
You just
back.
don't have to pay them back. And then you go right back into the rat
Can I
race.
do it on my student
No.
loans?
Very good question. As of 1983, student loans do not fall into bankruptcy if they're federal loans. Private student loans might.
Wow.
Yeah. You mentioned tithe? Yeah, tithe is in every religious book. You have to contribute towards it. But anyway, different story.
Yeah, let's not start.
Yeah, no.
Let's get back to this.
All I mentioned was finances. Every book has some type of reference to
It
finances.
has to do with numbers.
Numbers exist since the beginning of time. All right. So what was usury? I mentioned it was being used and abused by a lender who knows you cannot afford it and still lends to you, right? It says right next, various state laws protect borrowers. The federal government, in an effort to make mortgage money freely available, has exempted most regular lending institutions. What are, or which are regular lending institutions?
School.
Banks. So they're exempt from usury laws. What does that mean? That they can charge you whatever they want. In fact, crooks, scammers. So in fact, in the late 70s, early 80s, the rates were in the 20s.
Like right now
Like right now.
with credit cards.
Oh, we're talking about mortgage rates. Imagine paying your mortgage with a 20% interest. Yeah. Crazy, right? Anyway, so that's the banks. They're free of doing whatever they want. Now, it says right here, 2 private sources for mortgage money, however, are bound by state usury laws. So the banks cannot charge you. I mean, they can charge you whatever you want, but we, third parties, and the seller that's selling to you and saying, hey, don't worry about it, don't go through the bank, pay me in installments, right? We are limited by this state law. So again, seller who takes back financing. Actually, I want you guys to correct one thing here. It's not correct. It's just, I want you to do a quick line right here. One line where it says takes back. And right above it, I want you to write seller. Because every time you see take back financing, I want you to think seller financing. Because they take back a mortgage. I finance you the purchase of my house, but I take back a mortgage. What is a mortgage? The house. Because if you don't pay me, I foreclose on the house I just sold you. You guys got it? That's why it's called take back financing. Third party says right here, real estate broker, grandfather, investor, who may lend the buyer money to purchase someone else's property. See, seller financing is, I finance the purchase of the house I'm selling to you. Third parties, they give you money for you to purchase someone else's property. These two private sources are capped of how much they can charge. So, what is that cap? In New Jersey, sellers may not charge more than 16% on the first mortgage. However, they may charge as much as 30% when they're selling their own primary residences. Because you're forcing me to leave, right? So, I allow you to purchase my house, way higher interest rates.
Wait a minute, I don't get that part. The bank cannot charge you,
Not the bank, seller.
the seller cannot charge you more than 30%?
16%.
But then,
But then if it's my house, my primary, see, if you're buying this house that I have over here is not where I live, no more than 60%. If you're buying the house where I live, no more than 30%. Because I have to move out, right? So I have to pay somewhere else while you're paying me.
exactly.
So that's what it is.
All right, okay.
If the seller's taking back a second mortgage, the limits are 16% on the first $50,000 and 30% beyond that amount. Look what it says next. When the private third party, someone not the seller and not an institutional lender, makes a mortgage loan, it is essential to find out ahead of time what usury limits apply. So if I lend money to you, I need to know what are the limits when I lend to you to purchase someone else's house. Because a mortgage that charges an illegal rate of interest, usury, is not, please underline, legally enforceable. The borrower might have a good case for not repaying the debt at all. Right? If it's illegal rates, then it's illegal for you to charge me. Therefore, I'm not paying you. Go ahead, take me to court. You take me to court and the judge will go, slam. Get out, because you're charging illegal rates. You guys got it? Questions? No.
Illegal rates to anybody?
Yeah.
Anybody?
Anyway, if I charge you 20% to buy a house, is that legal?
Nope.
I just said no, right? So do you have to pay me back?
Nope.
No, that's it. That's all you need to know. Where it says imputed interest, put a big cross on it.
Are you sure? X it out? You don't want to make it out of the state test?
Big cross? What do you mean?
I'm going to tell you what my son said
Or
yesterday. That's why I'm the instructor and you're the student.
put exit, don't.
Exit. No need.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You said cross or X?
X, you don't need it, scribble it out.
X on it. No, the reason is there's no question about imputed interest in the exam, so don't worry
Thank
about it.
God, last one thing.
Yeah, really tiny thing. There's a lot of other things to think about.
Right?
Prepayment.
Oh,
What is prepayment? It's paying earlier than it's due, right?
mhm.
So it's due 30 years from now. What if I pay 2 weeks from now? That's a prepayment,
They're
correct?
gonna be pissed.
Now.
Who
Huh?
doesn't like
They are
people?
gonna be pissed off if you do that.
They are, but here's the thing. In Jersey, other states is different, or it might be different, right? But in Jersey, an institutional lender, not private lender, institutional lender, underline, may not impose a prepayment fee or penalty. So if you want to pay it sooner, prepay your debt, You can, and they cannot charge you extra for that.
Ooh, that's why they don't like it.
Correct. Yes.
What if the bank is outside of New Jersey?
They're issuing loans to New Jersey. They have to follow New Jersey rules.
Oh,
Did it really break anytime?
Yes, it's coming soon.
Like how?
We're almost
Soon.
there.
No, we're not. Yes and no.
3 days.
Ready?
Yes.
First and second mortgages. Mortgages and other liens normally have priority in the order of which they have been recorded. We know this, right? So that if there's a mortgage on the land that has no prior mortgage lien, then whoever records first becomes the first mortgage. And whoever records second becomes a second mortgage or junior lien. Simple. Right? Next. The priority of mortgage liens may be changed by execution of a subordination agreement in which the first lender subordinates his or her lien. All right, this is where it gets confusing. Sorry.
Subordination isn't a suburban person like
So what?
subordination isn't that subordinate person to
What does that mean?
paying somebody to do something?
Bribing?
Bribing, yeah.
Okay, no.
It's not the same?
No. Subordinate means to be under.
Less
Oh.
than. Yeah, like less than rent.
Correct. So under, less. So like a employer, employee, like seller, broker, agent, right? Under. So we have a mortgage that was recorded in 93. This is the first mortgage, right? And this mortgage is $500,000. In 95, somebody recorded a second mortgage of $50,000. Which one is first? Which one is second?
23.
Whoever recorded first. So the order is based on recording. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Let's change this a little bit. We're now in 2005 and we purchased this house. And a few years later, 2007, you're trying to get a second mortgage. But a second mortgage for what? Construction. Okay? We're not saying it's recorded. All I'm saying is you got initially $100,000. Yes?
Right.
And then a couple of years later, you tried to get a $50,000 loan. To do what? Construction. Most construction loans, they say, I will lend to you, but I gotta have first position, primary position. In this scenario, are they gonna have primary position?
No,
No. Right? So they will not lend to you.
because of the first $100,000.
Yeah. Now, what if, let's assume
Because
this.
usually the banks usually lend it within like $200,000 or $300,000.
It's not amount.
It's not a.
It's not the amount. Let me show you something. It has nothing to do with the amount here. It has to do with priority. I'm giving you $50,000 to fix a house, right? But if you don't fix the house, what do I get? Nothing. Pleasure. Right? So what I want you guys to think about is there's $150,000 now against the property. But by fixing the property, it increased in value. So what we call the after repair value. Increased the value of this property to $250,000 just by fixing it. If it increased in value, is it worth more?
Yes.
Yes. If there's a foreclosure for any reason, do the banks lose?
No.
No, because most likely we will recover anywhere near this number. So you will pay off the first lien and you'll pay off the secondary lien. Yes?
Right. The bank keeps the value.
Great, let me finish. Let me follow this process here, thought process, so you guys understand what I'm trying to say. So because the bank is kind of secure, right, that they will recover their monies, the second mortgage will negotiate with the first mortgage and say, hey, first mortgage, we want to lend $50,000 for the construction, and by lending $50,000 for the construction, we're going to increase almost $100,000 in value. In the event of foreclosure, neither one of us lose. But because I'm taking the higher risk of giving $50,000 against something that's not worth it right now, I'm asking you to please step down and become secondary. Allow me to step up and become first position. Okay? So subordination agreement is where we flip the tables. Second becomes first, and first becomes second. The only reason for this to happen is if they do not lose any money, because 250 minus 150, there's still $100,000 to play with. So everybody is happy. Does that make sense?
That's what I was just trying to explain earlier.
I know, but I was trying to explain something first. Sorry. I know that's exactly what you thought. But I was trying to go with this thought pattern because it's very important you understand. Why would somebody, if they have first position, meaning in case of foreclosure, I get paid first, why would somebody in first position allow or agree to be subordinate to a lesser mortgage, right? Because 100,000, 50,000. Why would we change position? Because it benefits everybody involved.
Especially the bank.
Well, it is everybody involved. We're talking about the banks. In this case, it's about the lien holders, not about.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, for example, you go to like a baseball stadium and they have the front row seat, right? And you have like a little bit more back. That person pays more expensive for the front row seat, and that person on the back don't. They give certain money for that person in exchange seat, but they're still watching the game.
Have you seen certain cases where someone's been rejected
Yeah.
by trying to prove an increase? Well, they're going to increase the property value, but the bank doesn't feel like it's a good move. Have you seen cases like that?
We're talking about institutional lenders, or are you talking about private lenders?
Either or.
Okay, with institutional lenders, they're a little bit more scared of uncommon transactions. And what I'm trying to say here is institutional lenders, they want the vanilla loans. What is a vanilla loan? Everything's perfect, beautiful, will be secured no matter what, right? Private lenders are small banks, savings and loan associations, a mom and pop type of bank. They will be a little bit more riskier in their transactions. Believe it or not, it's unbelievable that a smaller bank will be riskier, but they know they're going to cater to the people that cannot go to the bigger banks because of lending restrictions, right? So is it possible that even though it looks like it's going to benefit everybody, they will reject it? Yeah.
Because
You're going to the wrong lender for that type of transaction.
Yeah, but it's also your job to convince the bank or the private lender that it's a positive, it's
Yeah.
positive for them and you. So you have like some kind of.
But at that point, you need to prove that the ARV, or the after repair value, is going to be substantially higher. So I'm not going to get into that portion in detail, but when you go to a bank that wants to give you loan based on construction, they want to have a safety net. What does that mean? The ARV equals $100,000. That means after repairs is worth $100,000. They will lend, so the LTV, which we're going to talk about in a different, on Monday actually, the LTV would be 65%. That means that the maximum that they'll lend, max loan, is 65% of the 100,000.
And the LTV represents what?
Loan to value. So on Monday we're going to go in detail, but what I'm saying is the max that any lender will give you is based on a percentage of what's going to be worth. So if you cannot prove to me that this property that you're going to repair is going to be worth $100,000, then why would I lend to you? Because remember, construction loans is based on future value, not current value. Currently, you're paying $50,000 for this property, and it has $30,000 worth of repairs. How much is that? 80,000. So 50 to purchase, 30 to repair. That's 80,000. Is 80,000 65% of 100,000? No, it's 80%. Will I lend to you? No. Too many repairs. And that's why they have certain guidelines based on those percentages. So you have to prove to me that, hey, lender, the repairs are actually less, or by making the repairs, I think we can get to 130,000. So now there's enough cushion for you to lend the purchase, lend the rehab, and I'll refinance later, or sell the property, and everybody's safe. So that's why they would reject those loans. But either way, they want to be primary, and that's what the purpose of this presentation was. The subordination, the purpose was primary. Yes?
The construction, is that like specifically a construction loan, like for the 50,000, or could that be like a home equity loan?
Stuff we'll talk about also, that will be Tuesday. But yes, a home equity line of credit could be for the purpose of construction. A home equity loan could be for the purpose of construction.
And you could do the subordination agreement, so to speak?
See, at that point, this is a secondary loan.
Oh,
Okay? It could be, depending on what you're trying to do, they could demand to be in first position. But again, as I was saying, it just has to benefit all concerned, everybody. Okay? You're looking for that on Google, or?
Okay, so the thing where the loan, the priorities will change, it's because one is less.
Say it again.
The first and the second mortgages,
The
they
fir-
change when the second one is like less, or like.
No, they change based on the second mortgage demands. The second mortgage says, I'll lend to you if the first mortgage agrees to come down.
Okay.
So it has nothing to do with values. I just gave an example of values, and I gave an example of dates. What it has to do with is, I will lend to you, it will improve your property, but I only give you that money if the first mortgage comes and becomes second mortgage. All right? What happens most of the times, you do something called a cash out refi. What a cash out refi is you refinance the first debt and bundle it with the second loan. So it becomes all into one, and you have cash out for the repairs. So now you have one single mortgage. When that is not possible for whatever reason, then you have a first mortgage and a second mortgage.
Are you the one that decides which is the first and which is the second? It's
Who
whichever
decides?
one.
No. Whoever records first is the first. Whoever records second is the second. Whoever records third is the third. It's based on who recorded. All right? It's based on putting the flag down and saying, I'm here. This happens. Right? Now, who decides who becomes a second after that is between lien holders. Okay? First mortgage, second mortgage decide to battle and say, hey, okay, fine. I'll let you twist my arm and I'll become second, you become first. Right? So in the event of foreclosure, it still shows 2005, 2007, but because there's a third agreement registered that gives priority to the second, in the event of foreclosure, who gets paid first? The second. Yeah. You got it? All right, satisfaction mortgage lien. I just want you to highlight one thing real quick, which is New Jersey law requires the mortgagee. Who's the mortgagee?
You?
Who's the mortgagee?
The buyer.
Lender.
Lender. Wow. She goes to the bathroom, comes back refreshed, and be like, "Hey, the lender. I checked my notes." The lender, the mortgagee, because the mortgagor is the borrower. So New Jersey law requires the mortgagee to record the release of that mortgage, and they will charge you, the mortgagor, for that fee to release. You guys got it? Great. All right. Before I get to assuming a seller's mortgage, This next page and a half, we're gonna be some time here. So I'm gonna give you a quick 5 minutes, no more than that, because this is quick for me to set up. Quick 5-minute break. I need you fully alert, so go for that coffee, go for that water, go for that splash in your face, and come back. 5 minutes.
Are we gonna be done?
Well, it does say summary.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
But it will take time, this page and a half.